a lot we could worry about. I've reported on lots of threats.
Tonight, do you have a coffee maker in your house? It could burst into flames and set your house on fire. John Stossel with the facts you should know. Brewing disaster.
That was one of my many alarmist stories. Hey, it does happen. A coffee pot can set a house on fire. To be safe, you better unplug it when you're not making coffee. Except to be safe, according to the media and government experts, there's so much you could do. Over my career, I've reported on or been asked to report on flesh-eating bacteria, shark attacks, global warming, dangerous food additives, texting while driving, eating while driving, mad cow disease, West Nile virus, mercury in fish, radar in homes, and exploding big pens. All were serious threats pushed by safety advocates. Also, because of the cancer epidemic, I've been asked to report on breast implants, bottled water, tap water, coffee, red food coloring, Allard, DDT, power lines, Teflon pans, cell phones, x-rays, microwave ovens, lawn chemicals, pesticide residues, plastic bottles, saccharin, aspartame, cyclamates, hair dye, leakage from landfills, and asbestos from hair dryers. And by the way, there was no cancer epidemic. Cancer rates are flat or down. It just seems like there's more cancer today because there's more reporting on it, and more people today will talk about cancer. And we live long enough to get cancer. It's actually good news. Still, none of those scares was completely specious. There was always some science behind it, and often lawyers looking for money. But I eventually came to see that consumer reporters don't help people by hyping every media risk of the day. And the regulation that comes out of the hype hurts everybody. It makes everything cost more and often deprives us of good things. Some clueless environmental zealots got Meryl Streep to suggest a pesticide in apple might cause cancer. The media jumped on it.
In a growing number of school districts, they are banning apples and apple products.
There are so many hazardous chemicals and pesticides in the environment now.
And so, scare after scare. So-called consumer activists worried about everything.
Can spoil in your own refrigerator.
Watch out for poultry.
Chicken contaminated with pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, sometimes contaminated with rat feces.
Do you eat hot dog?
No.
Of course, flying is dangerous.
Inadequate maintenance.
And carpets are dangerous. We should all have bare floors.
Rugs are dirt collectors, and dirt collectors means internal indoor air pollution.
You make life sound terrifying.
No, life is preparedness.
Sheesh, I don't want to be that prepared. I don't want to obsess about safety all the time. So, after I did that interview, I spent a few years compiling lists of what kills people and ranking the risks. That's how I got that chart I showed you earlier. I took it to my ABC bosses and said, let me do a show that puts danger in perspective. They agreed to give me an hour of prime time, but getting that hour produced wasn't easy. Two producers said my suggesting that some regulation might go too far was just ridiculous. That's not journalism, they sneered. That's conservative propaganda. They even quit rather than work on my program. But ABC, to its credit, did go through with the show. There's a lot to worry about. We've been told by politicians and the media that there's danger everywhere, and it's all getting worse. I wanted to title the show, We're Scaring You to Death. They made me change that to, Are We Scaring Ourselves to Death? They also said it was so controversial that we'd have to add an extra half hour to let critics and lawyers and so-called safety experts ask critical questions. They gave up Ted Koppel's Nightline slot for that. But finally, I was able to show ABC's viewers the bar graph I showed you. Here's the controversial part. After the bar showing how much driving and smoking shorten lives, I added one more bar. Well, look at the last item on the chart. Poverty. Being poor shortens lives much more than most things we worry about. And by increasing regulation, we make it harder for people to climb out of poverty. But when we try to completely eliminate these smaller risks, when we try to take all the asbestos out of the schools and all the lead out of Aspen, in the name of prolonging lives, there's a good chance we're shortening lives by making more people poor. Oh, that annoyed the people of the left. How could ABC let Stossel say that? But at least it was just ridiculous and abstract. No one would watch. But then the ratings came in, and they were good. And lots of scientists wrote in saying, finally a network is being sensible about risk. ABC agreed to give me more primetime specials, and that changed my life and provided a little bit of intellectual diversity at ABC. A little, that's all they would tolerate, and that lack of tolerance is why I moved to this channel. But that's another story. This show's bottom line. When it comes to life and death, we should worry about things like driving, and driving drunk, eating too much, drinking too much, abusing drugs, living recklessly. But then, chill out. In America, thanks to free enterprise, life is pretty good. And every year, we live longer. That's our show. See you next week for a new episode, again in our new time slot, Fridays on FBN. See you then, if we don't die.